Emma Reynolds lived a quiet life in a small town just outside of Portland, Maine. She worked part-time at a local bookstore, enjoyed early mornings with her coffee and journal, and spent her evenings cooking dinner for her husband, Daniel, and his daughter Lily. When she was home from college, Emma had been Daniel's wife for 8 years. It wasn't a perfect marriage, but it was stable, safe, the kind of life Emma thought she wanted. That peace began to shift on a rainy Thursday afternoon when Daniel returned from a work trip to Vermont, not alone, but with an old friend from college and his family in tow. "This is Greg Crawford," Daniel said as he stepped through the door soaked from the rain. "And this is his wife, Maya, and their son, Jordan. They just moved back from Florida and their rental fell through. I told them they could stay with us for a little while." Emma smiled politely, trying to hide her surprise. She wasn't used to unannounced guests, especially not a whole family. She was tired from work, still in her apron, and the house wasn't exactly guest-ready. But she trusted Daniel's judgment, even if he had a habit of making decisions without talking to her first. Maya was striking tall, confident, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to read the room the moment she entered. She hugged Emma like they were old friends, even though they had never met. "Thanks for letting us crash here," Maya said, setting her bag by the door. "It won't be long, I promise." Emma nodded. "Of course. Welcome." At dinner, the conversation flowed easily. Daniel and Greg laughed about old college stories, and Maya leaned in close to Daniel every time he spoke. Emma noticed, but brushed it off. Maybe she was just warm and friendly. Maybe Emma was tired and overthinking it, but something in her stomach twisted when she caught the way. Maya touched Daniel's arm when she laughed. Too familiar, too comfortable. Emma smiled through it. Lily had just come home from her second year of college and seemed to like having more people in the house. She clicked instantly with Maya, who acted more like a fun older sister than a house guest. The first few nights were manageable. The Crawfords stayed in the guest room, and Emma kept the house running like she always did, cooking, cleaning, making sure everyone had what they needed. But slowly, the rhythm of the house changed. Daniel spent more time downstairs with Maya and Greg, watching late-night shows or playing cards. Emma would come down to find them laughing in the living room while she was alone upstairs, waiting. She tried to talk to Daniel about it, but he always waved her concerns away. "They're just going through a tough time," he said. "We're helping out. It's what good people do." Emma didn't argue. She wasn't the confrontational type, but she began to notice the small things. How Daniel seemed more alive when Maya was around. How Maya wore her robe a little loosely in the mornings, walking barefoot into the kitchen where Daniel always happened to be. How Lily started spending more time with Maya than with Emma, laughing with her at the kitchen table like they were family. It had only been a week, but it felt like Maya had always been there, like she belonged more than Emma did. One afternoon, Emma came home early from work and heard Maya and Daniel talking in the backyard. Their voices were low, not secretive, but not meant to be overheard either. Emma stood by the screen door, not close enough to make out the words, but long enough to feel something was happening, something just beyond her reach. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when her house had stopped feeling like her home. Daniel climbed into bed late, smelling like wine and laughter that didn't include her. "You okay?" he asked, barely whispering. Emma turned her face away. "Just tired." But she wasn't tired. She was beginning to feel invisible. By the second week, the Crawfords hadn't made any mention of leaving. Emma brought it up gently over breakfast. "Did Greg find a place yet?" Daniel didn't look up from his coffee. "They're still looking. It's hard right now, but they're trying." Emma nodded, but her heart felt heavy. She missed her quiet mornings. She missed Daniel, or rather the version of him that used to look at her with warmth, not obligation. And most of all, she missed feeling like her home was hers. That evening, Emma stood at the sink washing dishes. Maya and Daniel were in the living room again, watching something on TV. Emma could hear Maya laughing. Daniel's voice followed, warm and relaxed. She dried her hands and stood there for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window, listening to the laughter behind her, Then Lily walked in, smiling. "Maya's the best, isn't she?" Emma gave her a weak smile. "She's interesting. She gets it," Lily said, pouring herself some water. "She actually listens. It's been nice having her around." "Ah!" Emma said nothing, because Lily didn't know what it was like to feel someone slowly replacing you. Not just in your marriage, but in your family. She didn't know what it was like to watch someone else step into the space you had spent years building. And Emma. She wasn't sure how to stop it, or if she even could. To be continued in part 2, Whispers in the Hallway. The Crawfords were still in the house, and Emma was starting to feel like a guest in her own home. What was supposed to be a temporary stay had stretched into 3 weeks. Every time Emma asked Daniel if they had found a place, he gave her the same tired answer. "They're looking. It's just a bad time right now." Emma stopped asking. She kept busy with small things, folding laundry, making meals, staying late at the bookstore, anything to avoid being in the same space as Maya, because every time she felt something she didn't want to name, replaced. Not just as Daniel's wife, but as a woman. One night around 11, Emma woke up thirsty and walked down the hall to get water. As she passed the guest room, she heard voices. The door was open just a crack. Inside, Daniel was sitting on the edge of the bed, laughing with Maya. It wasn't just casual small talk. The way they looked at each other, it was different. Emma stood there quietly, heart pounding, waiting to hear something that would confirm the fear growing inside her. But she didn't hear anything scandalous, just soft laughter, too close, too easy. She didn't want to hear more. She turned around, walked back to her room, and closed the door. The next morning, Daniel acted like nothing had happened. He kissed her forehead, poured her coffee, and talked about errands. Emma nodded and smiled, but her stomach was tight. Her trust was starting to slip, not from anything dramatic, but from everything unspoken. Later that day, Emma tried to talk to Lily. They were in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. Emma chose her words carefully. "Do you like having the Crawfords here?" Lily didn't look up. "Yeah, Maya's fun. She actually listens when I talk." Emma blinked. "I listen to you too, Lily." "Oh." Lily shrugged. "Yeah, but Maya gets it, you know? She's been through stuff. It's different." That word again, different. Emma had spent years trying to build a quiet, stable life for Lily. She never pushed too hard. Always stayed respectful of the line between stepmother and friend. But now it felt like Maya had stepped right past that line without even trying. That evening, Emma noticed Lily and Maya chatting in the backyard. They were laughing over something on Maya's phone, shoulders touching, like sisters. Daniel was inside, sipping wine and watching from the window with a quiet smile. Emma stood beside him. "She's good with Lily," he said. Emma nodded slowly, almost like she's meant to be here. Daniel turned to her, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" Emma forced a small smile. "Nothing." She didn't say what she was really thinking, that Maya wasn't just good with Lily. She was too good, too comfortable, too connected, like someone who had already decided this was her home now. Days passed, and Emma started to withdraw. She no longer stayed up late with Daniel. She cooked meals but didn't eat with the group. She spent more time at the bookstore, even on her days off. She knew something wasn't right, but she didn't know how to prove it. And more importantly, she didn't want to look like the insecure wife. Then came the text. Emma had borrowed Daniel's phone to check the weather while hers was charging. A message popped up from Maya. "Thanks for last night. I really needed that." Her hands went cold. She didn't scroll, didn't read more. She just stared at the screen. The message wasn't romantic, not directly, but it wasn't innocent either. She set the phone down and walked to the living room, where Daniel was watching TV. "I think it's time we asked them to find another place," she said. Her voice calm but firm. Daniel looked at her, surprised. "What? Why now? It's been almost a month. This isn't working anymore." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll talk to Greg." "Okay?" But he didn't. Not right away. Emma waited 3 more days. Nothing changed. Finally, she brought it up again. This time, Daniel seemed irritated. "You're overreacting. They're our friends. They just need more time." That night, Emma couldn't sleep again. Around midnight, she went downstairs to make tea. As she passed the hallway, she saw the glow of a phone screen in the guest room. The door was slightly open. Maya was sitting on the bed, talking in a hushed voice. A moment later, Daniel stepped out of the room. They both froze when they saw Emma standing there. No words were spoken. Daniel looked embarrassed. Maya gave a small smile, like nothing was wrong. Then she closed the door behind her. Emma didn't ask questions. She just turned and walked back upstairs, her tea untouched. The next morning, the Crawfords packed up and left. No big farewell. No apologies. Just a quick goodbye, a few polite hugs, and they were gone. Emma felt relief, but only for a moment, because 2 days later, she came home from work to the sound of laughter in the living room. It was Lily, and sitting beside her, on the couch, was Maya. "Hey, Emma," Lily said cheerfully. "I invited Maya over. Hope that's okay?" Emma stood at the door, stunned. "You what?" "She just came by to see how I was doing," Lily said. "We've been texting. I missed her." Maya looked up and smiled, calm as ever. "Just catching up." Emma didn't say anything. She walked to the kitchen, heart pounding. The Crawfords had moved out, but Maya had found another way back in, this time through Lily and Daniel. He didn't seem surprised at all. To be continued in part 3 when the truth spilled. After Maya and her family finally moved out, Emma thought things might get back to normal. The house was quiet again. Daniel came home earlier, dinners were peaceful, and Lily was spending more time at college. For a few days, Emma allowed herself to believe the worst was over, but the peace didn't last long. One afternoon, Emma was at the bookstore when her phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. "Maya's coming over later. We're hanging out. Just so you know." Emma stared at the message, feeling a tightness in her chest. She wasn't ready for Maya to be back, especially not with Lily inviting her. That evening, came home early to find Maya sitting on the couch in the living room, chatting and laughing with Lily like old friends. Daniel was there too, but he looked distant, quiet, like he was watching a play unfold that he couldn't control. Emma's heart sank. She sat at the kitchen table, pretending to read a book but listening to their easy laughter. The warmth between Maya and Daniel, once hidden, was now obvious. It wasn't just friendship anymore. Later, Emma found herself standing in the hallway, watching Daniel and Maya through the open door of the guest room, the same room they had shared weeks ago when the Crawfords first stayed. Daniel's hand brushed Maya's arm, and she leaned in closer than necessary. They smiled, shared something private. Emma's breath caught. She realized that Daniel's feelings had changed. The man she loved was somewhere else now. That night, Emma confronted Daniel quietly. "Did you love her?" she asked, her voice breaking. Daniel looked down, unable to meet her eyes. Emma pressed on. "I'm not angry, Daniel. I just need to know the truth. He finally admitted it? I don't know. I was lonely. Maya made me feel alive again." Emma's world spun. She had held on, hoping their life was enough for him. But maybe it never was. Days passed with heavy silence between them. Daniel tried to explain himself, but Emma wasn't ready to listen. She kept to herself, going through the motions of daily life, while her heart ached. Lily, meanwhile, acted like nothing had changed. She still spent time with Maya, even inviting her for dinner sometimes. Emma saw the way Lily looked at Maya, admiration, trust, maybe even love. And that stung more than anything. One evening, Emma found Lily in the living room talking quietly with Maya. Their heads were close, whispers floating in the air like secrets. Emma wondered what Maya was saying to her stepdaughter, what new bond they were building that Emma was no longer part of. Emma wanted to scream, to demand answers. But she stayed silent. One night after Daniel had gone to bed, Emma packed a small bag and sat by the window, staring out at the streetlights. The house felt empty, even though people were inside. She thought about the years they had shared, the memories made, and the love she had believed was real. She realized love wasn't always enough. The next day, Emma told Daniel she needed time apart. He looked shocked but didn't argue. Maybe he knew this was coming. Emma stayed with a friend for a few days, giving herself space to breathe, to think. She was heartbroken but also clear-headed. When she returned home, the house was quieter. Daniel had stopped seeing Maya, and Lily seemed more distant from her mother's former friend. Emma knew she had lost something precious, not just her marriage, but a part of herself. But she also found something new, strength. She decided to rebuild her life on her own terms. Not as Daniel's wife or Lily's stepmother, but as Emma, a woman who deserved truth, respect, and love that didn't fade. The story wasn't over. The healing was just beginning. Emma's decision to leave wasn't sudden. But the moment she finally stepped out the door, it felt like a fresh start. She carried a small suitcase, her heart heavy but her mind clear. The house that once held so many memories, laughter, quiet mornings, family dinners, now felt like a place she didn't belong. The walls seemed to whisper the truth she had tried to ignore for too long. Leaving Daniel wasn't easy. 8 years of shared life, hopes and dreams didn't just disappear overnight. But Emma knew something important. Love wasn't meant to hurt. It wasn't meant to leave you questioning your worth or your place in the world. She moved into a small apartment nearby. A cozy space with a view of the city's skyline and enough sunlight to make mornings feel hopeful. Emma threw herself into work and friends, finding comfort in the simple rhythms of everyday life. For the first time in months, she slept through the night without waking to silent tears. Daniel tried to reach out. At first there were texts, short, apologetic, full of regret. But Emma didn't respond. She needed space to heal, not reminders of what was lost. Lily was caught in the middle. She didn't know how to navigate the broken pieces of the family she once knew. Emma called her often, trying to keep the connection alive, but the distance between them had grown. Lily was still close to Maya. And the gap between Emma and her stepdaughter felt wider every day. Emma understood that relationships change. Sometimes the people we love choose different paths. And we have to accept it, painful as it is. One afternoon, Emma met Daniel at a quiet cafe to talk. The air between them was tense, but honest. Daniel looked tired, his eyes softer than before. "I'm sorry," he said simply, "for everything." Emma nodded. "I don't blame you anymore. But I can't go back to how things were." They spoke about their past with respect, acknowledging the good times and the mistakes. Emma realized she didn't need answers to everything. Some questions would remain unanswered. And that was okay. What mattered now was the future, hers, Daniel's, and Lily's. Emma focused on rebuilding herself. She started painting again, something she hadn't done in years. The colors on the canvas felt like therapy, a way to express emotions too complicated for words. Friends encouraged her, and slowly she began to smile more genuinely. She also opened her heart to new possibilities. Emma wasn't looking for someone else to fix what was broken. She was learning to love herself first. Months passed. Emma and Daniel found a new rhythm, not as husband and wife, but as co-parents trying to support Lily. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. They kept their conversations about Lily's college plans, holidays and birthdays, respectful and focused on what was best for her. Lily, too, was growing. She started to see things more clearly, questioning her own choices and relationships. Emma hoped, with time, they could rebuild trust. One evening, Emma sat by the window of her apartment, looking out at the city lights. She thought about how life had changed, the heartbreak, the pain, the courage it took to walk away. But she also thought about what she had gained: freedom, clarity, and hope. Emma smiled softly. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. Healing never is. But she was ready to walk it one step at a time. Because sometimes, the most faithful thing you can do is to let go, not just of people, but of the past you thought you needed. And in that letting go, you find yourself again.